that is, should I continue to wear my orthotics while I'm doing the program, or if I do the program? Elisa, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten that question before. So some of the things I consider before answering that question with a client is how long they've been wearing the orthotics for, and if they feel like they help. The reason why I want to know those things is because what the orthotics are doing is changing the position of the foot in the shoe. So it's basically manipulating what we're trying to do with the exercises. So if I have someone that's been wearing them for years and the orthotics provide some relief, I'm not so quick to be like, let's just throw them out, because that might be quite a shock to the body, and you might not feel so great when you do that. So my first instinct is to go to like phasing them out. So if it's something where they've been wearing them 24/7 for several years, which most people I think that have orthotics, at least in my experience, that's where they're at by the time we see them. We talk about phasing it out, like, try taking them out 15 minutes a day, and see how you feel just walking around your house, or walking without shoes on at all, walking around your house that way, and then slowly increasing it, and getting to the point where we can, if it's important to them, not have to wear the orthotics at all would be ideal. But it's not something that I try to have them do immediately at the beginning of a program. We definitely keep tabs on it along the way. Yeah, that's usually how we address that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's a pretty comprehensive answer. So Lisa, do you have anything to add to that, or maybe how you would approach that?
I approach it pretty similarly. It's, and I also get a lot of clients who are at the point where they're considering orthotics as well. So maybe they haven't been in them for a long time, like Elisa has mentioned, but they're like, oh, should I get some? I saw the orthopedist, they want me to get, customized ones. And so I, let them know that as you go through this process, your foot position changes, your, hip function changes, and it all relates to what your feet do and how comfortable they feel in your shoes. And so sometimes initially, if they have a lot of symptom or if they do have a lot of discomfort, I might suggest that they start with something pretty basic and not too customized, because it will just kind of force your foot into a certain position. So I'll tell them, go try, the Dr. Scholl's ones, because we do expect your foot position to change. We do expect this to feel better and for this to change. So, you don't really want to invest a couple $100 in specific orthotics that you can only get into certain shoes. You can, start with something that's going to kind of get you over the hump. But as you see your posture change, as we see your symptom and everything go down, the orthotics that you bought are not going to be as useful, because again, we have a better foot position and we have better muscle function in the foot, and they're allowed to do their job. And I also encourage them to do their menu barefoot, not be in their shoes, especially if they do have orthotics. Definitely, take those out and be barefoot or in socks if you can. And then, try to get them to go outside, walk barefoot. We're very close to the beach, so a lot of people like walking on the sand barefoot, or there's a couple really nice parks around, so they go out to the park. Because even when you're inside your house, or if you're just walking around on the sidewalk, that's still a pretty flat surface, and you don't have unevenness that your feet need to respond to, that you're going to get if you're, out and about in uneven land, which is also very helpful.
Yeah, totally. The sand in different contours it's amazing how many receptors we have on our feet that just don't get utilized when we're all stuck in a certain position. Cool. Carrie Ann, anything you would add to that, or how do you approach that question typically?
Yeah, I would say fairly similarly to like what Elisa said would be my answer if you've had them for a long time. I also will talk about their day specifically, like when you're at home, wear them barefoot, but wear or at least bring them to work. Just if you're somebody like a nurse or if you're somebody who's on your feet for a long time and you've been relying on these, then even if you feel great around your house after you've been doing your menu and things have been changing, you don't ever want to get stuck. But I would say the goal always is to phase out of them and not need them, because they're really just a crutch. That's exactly what they are. They're a crutch for your foot. So we want to retrain your foot so you don't need them anymore. So yeah, the same. And I do take the length of time, although I think I'm a little harder than Lisa. I'll say, no, you don't need them. Let's wait. Let's try your menu for a good month before you even go back to that orthopedic doctor if they don't have them yet. Just because I think when you kind of do get them, sometimes people can get lazy. And so if you don't already rely on them, let's try and see what we can do beforehand. Yeah. And I'm a big barefoot person. I think everybody should do their menu barefoot. And I think everybody should walk barefoot as much as they possibly can, just in general.
Yeah, especially around the house, if nothing else. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I was going to go that direction of the crutch also, and that's a good way of just putting it to people that it's not ideal to have orthotics, and then it's also the, trying to get and recapture the idea or the intention of why they're wearing them in the first place. Like, did you go to a running store and they said you're a pronator, so everyone got the pronator orthotic, so and what they're looking at, they're doing their job. There is things as they are, and musculature and strengthen the arches of the foot naturally, internally, versus saying that the orthotic has to do that for us. So I think just summing up some of what you said also. I think the other thing that we run into with orthotics is a lift, and that's when people might have a disparity, a leg length disparity, and that goes into conversations also in terms of discrepancy. Was it measured, meaning position, x-rays, that sort of thing, or was it just sort of guesstimated that you have a leg length disparity? And then is that being addressed and corrected for? So there's lots of things that can change the the position or the relative length of the legs based on hip position, pelvic positioning, based on valgus varus or knock knee versus bowing, and even the sort of pronation, supination positions can all give us an apparent leg length. So it's not uncommon, also similar to the points that Lisa and Carrie Ann were saying in terms of working them towards not needing them, but working with them at the same time to say, like, okay, this is serving purpose. How does it feel in versus out? What's your weight distribution like? That kind of thing. And then, try your menu with, try your menu without, because it's not uncommon also that we've at best, some people have gotten to level where they go, I don't need this thing because I feel level and I look level, and I can see that from my pictures. That's awesome. And then at worst, people who go out, they actually might reduce it. So that's like what Carrie Ann, what you're saying in terms of like, hold off on going back and getting remeasured until we're a good distance into this, because we don't know how much you're actually going to take out of that disparity, because it's probably years that they've continued to get more wrapped up in compensation patterns and and whatnot, that makes it seem more and more of a difference. So just some of that. I would add to that. Anything else on that one though? Because that's a whole nother sort of direction too.
The hip disparity, yeah, everybody. I would say that, right, at least 50% of people when they first come in say, oh, one leg is longer than the other. Almost everybody thinks that they have one leg longer than the other, and then almost nobody does. So yeah, that's definitely something different. That's a whole another thing to address. But I would also, just to go back to the orthotics, I did, as you were talking, remember, I just had somebody, a teenager. I really feel like if you are in that age range, if you are, before 30 and it's not set in and you haven't had them yet, it can change so quickly. Like, we were looking at her in the mirror. All she was doing was glute contractions, which is basically just squeezing her butt. And we were literally watching her arches pick up off the floor as she squeezed her butt. So if you're young, especially, I would wait because that can be fixed really quickly.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, well said.